to learn to really, really support one another, and be okay with supporting others. Because I've heard people say, well, I'm not gonna make that person wealthy, I'm still, they'll rather go give their dollars to other people, which is why we haven't been able to recreate the Black Wall Street yet. Because we have to understand that each one teach one. When those dollars come into the community, into Black businesses, we employ other Black people. We also are able to get more when we have more of a financial backing. And it just really just continues to just weave its way into the neighborhood, into all economic factors of the African American community. And we have to start thinking like that.
Absolutely.
Consistently.
Now I definitely agree with you. I think it stems back to us having financial trauma, which is one of my topics that I stress the most, because we don't realize
Lord, I know that trauma.
Right. A lot of that we
all know that trauma.
It's because we have financial trauma. Now with you, Charmaine, you're a business coach. So what do you think we can do from a coaching perspective to help people change their mindset to where we're doing what Destiny is saying we need to do, which is, not be so hell-bent on, well, I'm not going to go and shop at Madani because I don't want Destiny's business to be more profitable than my beauty supply line. Like, why would I do that? What can we do to fix it?
So a lot of times what we don't see is it's not just Destiny, it's not just Madani, it's the legacy of the Black wealth.
Right.
And if we get past one person and look at the entire legacy or the entire bloodline of our culture, then at that point we can really see change. And that all starts with our mindset. If we're conditioned to crab in the bucket mentality and pull another sister down just because you don't want to see her win, you got to get out of that mindset. It's kind of like you got to forget everything that you've learned and you got to go back and relearn. And once you go back and relearn, then at that point, you're not just looking at, oh, Coach C. You're not just looking at Destiny. You're not just looking at you, Jasmine. You're not just looking at the individual person, but you're looking at the legacy of the Black woman and what she's producing, what she's reproducing in legacies and generations to come.
And
so I think as a coach, that's it.
And also sorry to cut you off, Coach, but also what it inspires. Because I've had so many young girls, even women, that have been restarting their lives, divorce and all that, that were just inspired by my presence and came to learn from me. And that is what it's all about.
Definitely.
Because the next little girl's going to say, oh, well, that was a Black-owned beauty supply store. I didn't know that. I want one. And that's the whole point of putting stuff in the middle of our communities and, putting our dollars in our communities so that we can continue to inspire people to know that they can do all the things that we set forth to do. And whatever we want to manifest, we have the ability to do that.
Absolutely. I definitely believe that representation matters. I know for me personally, before I decided to become a CPA, I had never seen one, never met one, none of it. So when I became one and found out, oh, on top of that, it's other Black CPAs. I'm like, oh my goodness, like we're unicorns, and we do it that's as good as those other CPAs. So I really think that it, like Coach C said, it's just looking at the bigger picture and like, let's get from beside ourselves and stop looking at the person and look at what they're doing actually means for all of us. And not just I'm just going to go and make Coach C wealthy. I'm just making Destiny wealthy and I'm sitting over here with my lights off.
I'm used to going to, another beauty supply store that ain't owned by us, but that's just I'm used to that. Or it may be 5 miles down the road further than where the Black-owned store is. It's that 5 miles that matter.
Right.
That puts back again into the community, because you think about it. Back in the day, like I remember being young in Detroit, and there were Black-owned beauty supply stores, all the little small ones, all over the place. And it's like all of a sudden they just disappeared. And then when I got into the industry and started, going to different beauty supply stores, because I had a product first, and seeing that the representation of us was literally in Atlanta, Georgia, the Black Mecca. It was one beauty supply store in Decatur, which is predominantly Black.
Yep.
And it was like, where are we at? Where are we? And then when you start buying products, and you have to, what I developed was a system where I band together with other Black-owned beauty supply stores so that we can just get the product in store. Right. Because the same price that they might charge, you know, whatever that other beauty supply store to get, you know, $2,000 worth of products, for me by myself to even get it in the store, I got to spend 10. Right. And that means I don't need $10,000 worth of gel. Why do I need $10,000 worth of gel? So we had to think through that, and what can we do to be more innovative to get these products in store. And then people come in Black owned and like, oh, they don't have a lot of stuff, but the other stores have too much stuff. It's oversaturated. So I just feel like people should educate themselves a little bit more on whatever industry it is that you are wanting to get into, and understand the ins and outs, the good and the bad, and be ready to handle all that comes your way, because it's a tough world out here in this entrepreneurship world.
It is very, very tough. But I like what you said about how you banded together with others to meet your mission. And I think that is something that is so important. And I know that's something that's prevalent in your business, Coach C. You create networks of women. I'm a part of the Ultimate Tribe. Networks of people. And that's really what Black Wall Street was. It's just a network of people that came together for a common purpose to say, hey, look, we can sustain ourselves. We don't have to depend on other people that don't look like us, and quite honestly, that don't really care about us, to do what we need to do for our community. And that's what I love about Black Wall Street. And that's what I hope to bring back to Black people and help us remember who we are. We started all of this.
Absolutely.
And we can maintain all of these. Now, when the pandemic hit, it did cause a lot of businesses to close, and then it created a lot of business owners as well. I'm pretty sure you, Coach C, had an influx of business just for the simple fact that new businesses started. So in you guys' opinions as entrepreneurs that were around when the pandemic started, what lessons did you learn post-pandemic that you would want people to know and take with them as they're working as entrepreneurs?
So for me, my entry into the pandemic was interesting. For me, I basically went through, that was the time I lost my daughter. My daughter passed away 3 weeks before the pandemic. So as a business owner, I'm having to juggle all of this new business and go to bury my daughter. Not to mention, I just had her 3 weeks, so I'm still trying to heal myself. So what I had to learn is, and what I was glad that I had systems in place, and I understood that I could not be a one-man show and miss out on all of the business that was coming my way. So I had to also had to learn to make sure that I was available online, that I wasn't just available in my storefront. I had a brick and mortar for 7 years. So I had to do a couple of things to make sure that in the pandemic that I could still survive. And actually, I just didn't survive. I thrived through adversity, through, turmoil and things like that. So what I learned was, and what I teach all of my clients, all of my students, to always make sure that you're ready to pivot at a moment's notice.
Yes, ma'am.
Always literally be ready, because you never know what can happen in your business that you will have to close the doors and you got to go completely online. And you can't miss the mark no matter what. So that was something that I not only learned, I was able to teach as well to everyone that I work with.
I agree. Destiny, what was the pandemic like for you with having a storefront at the time?
So for me, I was 4 months pregnant when the pandemic hit. So I was on bed rest. I wasn't even really supposed to be working. Right. But I knew I had already started this journey, and I had, got the building and everything, and I had done all the build out. So I was in there in the midst of a pandemic, right before the pandemic, putting this store together. And then I'm ready to work. I'm in there, my aunt's in there, and I'm putting the systems in place and learning the business, day-to-day operations, and creating, workbooks and manuals for how I want things to be done. And 3 weeks after opening, the pandemic hit. And so I am pregnant, and there is a pandemic that's killing people. And I was terrified. Right. One, because I didn't want to expose myself and my unborn child to something that could take us out of here. And so I did pivot. I did go completely, I created an online store in the middle of that, in the process of that, and I started doing or having people help me do deliveries. So there was a pivot in that, and it was a lesson learned. And I love what you said, Coach C, is having systems in place. It caught me right at the part of putting the systems in place, but I'm grateful to be able to have had the storefront for 3 years. Through the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows. I feel like you have to know that when you start this journey, that tenacity is number one, because there are going to be good and there's going to be bad days and there's going to be hard days, and it's going to be times where you got to do most of the work. And until you get to a place where there are systems,
right,
and you can trust and hold people accountable to the things that you've created.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. Now, one of the things that I noticed with both of you guys' responses is you both mentioned your children. I have not been lucky enough to have kids yet. However, the day hopefully is coming. But I want to ask both of you all, with both of you being mothers, how do you juggle being a mom and balancing business and family?
You don't. You don't. There is no balance. There is energy put into things that are necessary in the moment. And for me, I'm one of those moms that when my son is around, it's hard for me to disconnect from him. Right. So I had to learn that he'll be all right. You can do a bit of a balance when you're working. He was in a carrier in the store with me while I was working most days. So I think it's putting the right energy in certain things when needed, but finding a balance. It changes every day. It changes every hour. Right. Because I have a 2-year-old, so it's work.
I can't imagine having a small baby, even though I think I would do well with small babies.
When they're small, you can just wrap them up and put them on your. Yeah, that's probably when you have an exploring little boy that's all boy and rough.
Right.
Yeah. Listen, I overstand. My kids range from ages 1. I have 1, 10, 14, 17, 26. So
you got the tribe out here.
That's 5. Ooh, Lord.
So how do you do it, Coach C? And I follow you, so I see you doing the events, the classes, the lives, and I'm like, I can't even do a live a week, and I ain't got no. So, like, how do you do?
Here's the thing. I have adopted a concept, and actually, anybody that's worked with me in any capacity knows that Saturday and Sunday, do not call me, do not bother me. I'm not responding. That's my family time. During the week after 7 o'clock, do not call me, do not bother me. That's my family time, unless I have something like this going on. Thank God I have an amazing husband. We've been married in July. We've been married 19 years. So we balance it out. No more kids. That's it. That's it.
Sure? I know you got one more in there.
You sure?
Listen, because had my daughter still been living, we would have 6 kids. So we done. Like, we are done. So, we're big on putting it on the calendar, and we all share. The calendar is shared across the board. We have the calendar. We know what's going on. But again, life happens, and when life happens, you got to be ready for it. So it's not going to be 100% perfect. But at the same time, I know when Aiden is 18 months. So when he gets out of daycare, he just went to daycare in February. So he's been at the office with me. He's been on my lap while I'm coaching a client. It's been, because I just was, and we probably get into this a little bit later, being that I lost a child, it was kind of hard for me to let go, because the child before him was the one that passed. So it was like, I'm going to keep him close, close to me. So it's a lot. But what I do say is anything is possible. If you want to make it happen, you're going to make it happen. So that's how we do it.
I don't know if my thing then, because right now I'm struggling and I ain't got one.
But I'm going to tell you, you'll figure it out. When you become a mom, you will figure it out. I promise you.
Figure it out.
So
figure it out.
Because May is Mental Health Month. And we do want to cover that as well, because your mental health does affect your money and your finances as well. So with you guys being mothers and having a business, how do you make sure that your mental health is where it needs to be so that you can run the business and be mom at the same time?
Ooh. Look, Destiny, you want to go first?
Well, sure. So for me, I went through a divorce with a 3-week-old baby during the middle of a pandemic. Ooh. While trying to build a brand and a business. So I went through a bout of depression. I had postpartum. I didn't have the postpartum like heaviness, but I was, you know, people tell you, and you'll learn this when you have kids, you're not yourself after you have a baby. Your mind is not the same. Your body's not the same. And I'm now realizing that, because I'm thinking I would get into modes like, oh, I'm good. And then I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? But now that I'm in a space now, he's about to be 3, I actually feel like I got my mind back. I got my body back. So it was a lot of prayer during that time. And I have life coaching, and I also do therapy, but I started trauma-based therapy. Because just regular, for me, regular talk therapy is good, but when you deal with something like the pandemic, which was traumatic for everybody, it triggers trauma from your childhood. It triggers trauma from situations, relationships that you dealt with. So for me, I started going a little bit deeper into therapy with trauma-based therapy, and that has been amazing for me. And I still do therapy, and I still have life coaching. So I feel like it's necessary, and I feel like our community needs to be okay with going to therapy, because the stigma that our ancestors, our grandma, great grandma was, people having mental health issues, it's just like, oh, that's just the way they are. Oh, they'll be fine. And we didn't get the proper help that we needed. Now I'm a proponent for therapy. I'm a proponent for life coaching. I'm a proponent for healing. So I think you should invest in yourself. And definitely first and foremost for me is leaning on God, and God will direct you to what you need. And here I am.
Absolutely. Now, your journey was a little bit different because you lost a child. How does and I know that weighed on your mental health. Like, what did you do to help overcome that and still be able to be Coach C and mom to the other 4 kids that you still have?
Yeah, I often tell people what a lot of people don't realize is that they see the beautifully painted picture, but they don't see what it took to get to that beautifully painted picture. I not only lost Ari at the age of 22 days. Prior to her, I had 2 miscarriages. So